everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Ancient Geomancy for Contemporary Living. So I want to thank everybody that recently has been liking, subscribing. So more of the same, please. And don't forget to hit the notifications button so that way you'll be notified when I upload any new material. But thank you to everybody who has been liked and subscribed. I really can't thank you enough. So I'm Faye, I'm a geomancer, and in this channel we look into all things sort of related to sort of ancient wisdom, sacred sites, earth energy, and how actually that sort of ancient technology, organic technology that's out there in the world is equally relevant to today's life and actually how we can use it today, because we can. So today we're going to dive into something that actually follows on from the last video about quantum consciousness and sacred sites. We're going to delve a little bit more into an aspect of that. So this is pretty mind-blowing, really. It's how light enters our brain, light role in quantum consciousness, and how different light spectrums tweak our neurochemistry, and, stick with me here, what ancient sacred sites and their solar alignments might tell us about tapping into higher states of awareness. So we're going to unpack this step by step. So if you want to, pause the video, grab a drink, get comfy, and let's explore the science and mystery of light at sacred sites together. Okay, right. First up, the big question is, how does light even get into our brain? We know now that light moves across our neurons and is an aspect of quantum consciousness. So how does it even get in there to start with? Well, it all starts with your eyes. These are nature's own photon detectors. When light hits your retina, it's captured by specialized cells called photoreceptors. And these rods and cones for vision. And there are lesser known cells which are called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. Big name, I know, or IPRGCS. You know, they don't care about images, but they look at the total vibe of an image, really, with light's intensity and color. Now, these cells, they turn light into electrical signals which zip along the optic nerve to your brain. So literally, light photons hit a nerve ending at the back of the brain. Well, they go through the rods and everything, hits a nerve ending at the back of the brain, and then zips along that optic nerve to our brain. Here's the really interesting part. It doesn't stop at the visual cortex. Light signals also hit sort of other parts of the brain in the hypothalamus. That's our brain's master clock that syncs our circadian rhythms. So light is not just about seeing. Light is rewiring how our brain operates in real time. We are in a relationship with light. Light is an aspect of quantum consciousness. It carries information, and light entering our brain brings information about the universe, and it allows us to take in that information. So now let's start to get even more weird. What has light got to do with quantum consciousness? So quantum consciousness is this sort of wild idea, but more increasingly accepted, that our awareness might involve quantum processes, like subatomic particles, really, that do freaky things to the neurons in our brains. So some scientists like Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff propose that these tiny structures in the brain cells called microtubules could be where this sort of quantum magic happens. And it means we're processing information ways in which sort of classical physics can't explain. There's a way we process, and nothing else accounts for it other than quantum processes. So light comes into play here because photons, that's light particles, might interact with these quantum systems. So you've got to think about it. Light's a wave and a particle, right? We know this. Light can behave either as a wave or as a particle. So that duality really could theoretically influence quantum states within our own brain, maybe even linking our consciousness to the universe on a deeper level. it's speculative, but that's the kind of idea that keeps me up at night because I know from my own personal experience of sacred sites of being there at sunrise and sunset, those key moments have a profound effect on my sort of psychometry experiences, my out of body experiences, my visioning, my questing. All those kind of things have been enhanced for me by the different being there and allowing light to enter my eyes. And it could well be why we have things like fire at ceremonies, because we're trying to evoke light. So how does light affect our consciousness? So, what's different about things? What rather, how does different qualities of light affect our consciousness? So, we know that light is on a spectrum. And how does then that mess with actually our neurochemistry and our brain that enables us to have different states of consciousness? Because it's light that stimulates things like DMT production in the brain. Now, DMT is a neurochemical, it's what makes us dream. We produce an animal-based form of DMT in the body, in our brain, obviously because we're mammals. But if you take a plant form of DMT, that would be ayahuasca. So it's a chemical in our brain that enables us to dream. But light spectrum can induce that state while we are awake, hence light being important at sacred sites. So how does different light spectrums sort of mess with our neurochemistry? And this is where it gets sort of quite practical. Blue light or blue-green light, so from the morning sky after the sun is up, daylight spectrum really, on our phone, and around in normally daylight, blue-green spectrum of inside light, that boosts our alertness by cranking up serotonin and suppressing melatonin. So melatonin is our sleepy hormone. And that's why we often feel like, we can wake up as the sun comes up because the melatonin, the blue-green light suppresses our sleep hormone and increases our serotonin, which what wakes us up. Because even with our eyes closed, the light spectrum still enters, the light photons still enter our eyes. They go through our eyelids. So when we get to sunset again, the red light, like the sunset, it calms us down. It starts increasing the flow of melatonin, that which starts prepping us for rest. When the melatonin reaches a certain level, it links to another chemical called pinealine that the brain has started to produce as we've got more and more relaxed. And then the two really link together almost. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's when it produces DMT. So that gets us into sleep state. And then as the sun starts to arise, so in the night, that's what happens. And as the sun starts to rise, we hit that red-orange spectrum again, which our brain registers and says, oh, I need to start producing serotonin to wake me up and suppress this melatonin that's keeping me asleep. So we cease production we go into a DMT stage again, because we dream really when we're going to sleep and waking up. And then it starts with that when soon as the red orange spectrum is sort of there, we cease to produce DMT. As it gets more into daylight blue spectrum, we suppress the melatonin and release serotonin to wake us up. So that's how this cycle works. And it's interesting that when we're in the sort of different spectrums of light, we have different sort of consciousness experiences. So really, and then there's sort of ultraviolet and infrared light, the lights we can't see beyond the human spectrum of sight. Now, these are less studied, but some research hints that they could actually tweak the nitric oxide levels, or that's really our cellular energy, in ways that can subtly shift our mood and cognition. They have a subtle but nonetheless an effect on us. So basically, every wavelength of light or every particle of light has a different effect on the neurochemical tracts within our brain. So we are highly attuned to light. Our brain chemistry is highly tuned to light. It's our brain chemistry that triggers biological processes in our body. And then light this is where I'm going to throw in a big idea. What if sacred sites, like, we all know them, Stonehenge, aligned to the, midwinter solstice, or, the sacred mountains that track the rolling of the sunrise or the sunset, you know, they were built on solar alignments, and maybe they were built there to hack this light brain connection for spiritual purposes. So if these sites, which we know, let's picture this, these sites are often orientated to catch light spectrums at different times, like the solstices and the equinox. And that floods them with unique light spectrums, particularly sunrise and sunsets, for instance, at solstices in particularly, are highly charged light spectrums. So the ground is much more negative in its charge, light, the air is much more positive. And we get flooded with these highly positive, highly charged light photons. Now, if our ancestors knew that certain wavelengths, if they knew of them, recognized them, could felt them, sense them in whatever way, shape, or form, what if they amplified these alignments, knowing that they would trigger altered states of consciousness? Because I know from my own experience at sacred sites, the most profound experiences have been at sunrise and sunsets, or they've, at solstices, because the effect is different. So I think this is something that our ancestors knew about. And I think this is very much why we still need to be out there in the natural world. We need to be engaging with light, just as we need to be engaging with water. So maybe this sort of golden flow of the dawn light hitting a temple wasn't, a temple opening or the light going up the back of Newgrange. What if it wasn't just a calendar marker? What if it was so that we could bathe in this highly charged light as a tool to synchronize our brain with quantum processes and open up a window of what we would now call quantum consciousness? So imagine rituals timed at sunrise, and you're bathing in participants in this ritual in light that tweaks the serotonin, the melatonin, and even the microtubule vibes really in your brain, how light is moving through those microtubules, a different quality of light. As it moves down them, it lights our brain up inside. And that could unlock our spiritual awareness and altered states of consciousness that we have forgotten how to access without the need for some external stimuli like ayahuasca or magic mushrooms, psilocybin. I think these temples, as I say, were a natural means, a natural technology, an organic technology, if you like, of a way of accessing this quantum consciousness so that we could gain insights into, anything that we needed to, not seeing the future, but how do the ebbs and flows? Could we foresee whether we were going to have great weather for good crop production, whether we were going to be invaded, or whether we were going to have some catastrophic event? We can see different things when we're in these states. We can have different experiences. And we know that, for instance, that when we're at high sites that are open to the sky, the light spectrum there must be different than that inside caverns or chamber cairns, because the most in terms of recorded sort of precognitions or psychic experiences at sites that are open to the sky, statistically they're much more to do with what's happening out there in the world. I can see something happening to humanity, or some natural disaster, or I've got a terrible feeling about something, and it's about something that's out there. But the psychic experiences people have when they're sort of like in caves or in chambered cairns, they tend to be internal precognitive experiences about something that's going to happen to the person. So we have different types of experiences. When we're in the ground, they relate to us. When we're on the ground, they relate to out there in the world. So I think, the soil and the stone, the paramagnetism of the rock, the piezoelectricity of the rock, all these things are a subtle technology that we were more in tune with. And with modernity, with the built environment, with electricity, with just how we now live, It's like we have an ability that we have forgotten how to utilize. We've forgotten how to access quantum consciousness because our modern life has been filled with stuff that distracts us. So, what do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Could light be the bridge between our biology, our consciousness, and the cosmos? I think there are many bridges. I think there are light. I think there is water. I think there is sound. I think there is rock. I think we had, and I think our ancients understood, there was this ancient organic technology that enabled us to gain insight. And don't forget as well, you know, there are marked effects of these in from sacred sites in things like crop growth, yield, production, animal health, human health. So when we engage with this technology, we were making whole societies, whole tribes, whole communities live a more healthy life in alignment with nature as much as health as we could produce. And if you've only got to look at like the Amazon now, we realize that vast numbers of people lived in the Amazon, engaged in this organic technology and used the pyramids as maize mountains to support those communities before weather cycles started to deplete their population or, you know, Spanish invasions and things. So we had for many years this organic technology, which basically means all life could thrive. We could create thriving natural environments where we could support life. We could tend to animals and ensure that they were healthy and had good birthing rates. The same, of course, would be affected for people. We would be healthy. We would be good food, clean, energized, or structured water is one of the things I think we were doing at these sacred sites. Plus, then they have the added effect of not just looking after our physical well-being, but we're able to look after our spiritual and emotional well-being by able to access quantum fields of information. So it's an organic technology really that did all aspects of our existence: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. It's a one-shot system that does multiple things at once. And that's what fascinates me, because geomancy is sort of like the remnants of that knowledge. And that's why I'm passionate about teaching it, because the more people we teach, the more I teach people, the more my students experiment, and the more we start to pick up on, that definitely does that, and this works, and these are the experiences I have, and these are the things we can create. So it's something that I think we need to rediscover. I think in the modern world, we're really calling out to rediscover and find a way of reusing this technology in contemporary society. So as you say, what do you think? Could light be the bridge between our biology, our consciousness, and the cosmos? Did ancient people figure all this out millennia ago? I think they did. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. You know, have you ever felt different under different kinds of light, or visited a sacred site that sort of hit you in a weird way at sunrise or sunset? And if you'd like to, if you like this more deep dive into thing, I say hit the like button, subscribe for more, ring the bell, the notifications bell, so you don't miss the next one. Up until then, keep looking up literally at the sky, let the light photons enter your brain, and I will see you in the next video.